Everyone for coming. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We welcome everybody that's watching online and on the local cable network, and I'll briefly allude to the fact, in keeping with the governor's executive order, we have taken all the precautions for everyone that's attending, as well as everyone here, to meet all the OMA requirements. With that, I'll call for a roll call.
Becker.
Here.
O'Flaherty.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Doe. Wright.
Here.
Chair Maxwell.
Here.
Joe is here audio, so maybe mention her again, please.
Doe.
Chris, can you hear us?
Nope. She's on mute. That right there. And,
Oh, is she on mute?
Picture indicates that she's on mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a quorum? Yeah.
Okay. With that, I'll look for approval of the agenda. Motion?
So moved.
So moved by Klein.
Second.
Seconded by Wright.
Just a voice vote on that.
Oh,
Now I can hear you.
All right, thanks, Chris.
roll call for a vote.
Just a voice.
Oh,
All those
all in favor, say aye. Sorry.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So passed. This is the portion for,
The minutes are next.
I'm sorry, the minutes, yeah. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Wright,
Second.
seconded by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Public participation portion. Anyone looking to speak to anything that's not on the agenda? Okay. With that, I'll move Mr. Olson. New business.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read the actual
Yeah.
hearing there on the agenda.
First item is public hearing. This is continued, a petition continued from July 6, 2020 by the First Methodist Church for approval of zoning map amendment upon annexation from SFR1 Single Family Residential to the PDR Planned Development Residential District. Approval of the amendment ordinance 94 through 74 and approval of the concept plan to allow the construction of an approximately 7,730 square foot church and accessories uses on approximately 16 acres of property located along the west side of North Annie Glidden Road across from the DeKalb County Health Facility campus. And with that, I'll look to the city to report.
Thanks, Chair. You have an updated staff report in your packets. This was a continue from our last hearing. At the hearing on July 6th, we heard concerns from residents in the Eden's Gardens subdivision, directly west of the church site, regarding drainage concerns and making sure when the church is developed, it's not a negative impact on the drainage in Eden's Gardens. Since that time, we've had the city engineer, Zach Gill, who is with us tonight, do a lot of research on the past documents, ordinances for Eden's Gardens, looking at plans, et cetera. And also we had the Public Works Department did a field investigation out the site. And actually, as you can see on the monitors there, this is an aerial actually from 2015, but you can kind of see where there's ponding in the area just east of Eden's Gardens. The church site is indicated in yellow. As you can see, most of the drainage or ponding area is not next to the church site. There was we get the not going forward. The few homes on the east side of Omega Circle apparently, according to testimony, had some ponding in the backyards in the past. So Public Works actually worked on some storm drains, storm pipes, and clearing those out that were leaving this pond here. And that what that did was allowed the water to go down, and the flow of water to continue was backed up. And what that did is also backed up the water that was in the storm sewers on the east end of Omega Circle Drive. So you have a memo in your packets from Zach Gill regarding the stormwater drainage, regarding the existing drainage situation, Eden's Gardens, and then what the church will have to do for stormwater drainage. And I'll turn it over to Zach to kind of summarize his memo that was provided in your packets.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you, Commission. The three takeaways from this are, what do we have downstream? This water is going to be at the upstream end of it. So how can we pass that through? Second of all, what would be necessary to pass that through? And third of all, are we equipped to pass that through? So the first thing we looked at was going back historically through the development of Eden Gardens, particularly phases 2 and 3, where the ponds you see noted there adjacent to the proposed site would be. Those facilities, both detention and the conveyance piping, were designed to accommodate the full stormwater runoff from the direct eastern parcels there. Not only the church property, but that directly to its north. So we're in good shape there. Then we look at what we have to do to get that done. What is built is adequate. What we did find were there were some deficiencies. You know, over the decades, things tend to like to creep and crawl and get in places that we don't want them to be. The city has already taken methods to clear. It would have been what's the southern pond. Yeah, the other down there. Yeah. To clear the outlet pipe on that pond, we already saw a receding of probably close to 2, maybe 3 feet in the high water level of that pond. If you look, Dan, if you can go a little bit over to the right and highlight that north-south pipe, right? There is an existing 12-inch diameter pipe there that is meant to do 2 things. Number 1, provide inlet for the rear of those yards through at-grade inlet catch basins. The second thing is there are a few field tiles connected in that field that are to take the subsurface water and help leach that off and increase the drainage rate of those. Those all depend on that 12-inch line. So while the 12-inch line is in a good place hydraulically, it was not physically clogged, but it was hydraulically clogged because the elevation of the pond was at such a high rate that it hydraulically had backed up that 12-inch line because it itself couldn't exit to the west as intended. So a lot of words to say, very simple fix. We pulled the hair out of the bathtub drain, right? And we have, from confidence, we've worked with both the drainage district, we've spoken with those responsible at the homeowners association, and I think we feel comfortable that with the maintenance and monitoring and collaborating together, we can ensure that we provide those ponds functions as need be, not only for the current residents of Eden Gardens, but any new developments or residents we're lucky enough to welcome to our east. So from that point, we're good. Now that gets into who's going to be putting water into that pond. Right now, we're looking at that being the proposed development of the church parcel. So the church, when developed, as you see there, anything considered developed, which I consider to be the end of what you show that line of turf. If they're converting farmed row crops into planted terrace, that is developed. It's not just the hard surface exactly, okay? That will be studied by their consulting engineer and provided to my office for review. So there's nothing arbitrary or capricious I can do. This is not subjective. This is under 110206 of Article 11 of the UDO, specifically relating to D, E, and F. So these are specifically enumerated values that they will have to meet. Same thing that Facebook had to meet when they came into town. You know, same thing that take your pick has to meet. And those are set, and they are for the 100-year event. So they will be given a number at the end, which is very easy to calculate, 0.15 cubic feet per second per acre. So they get to know how far they have to go, then it's on them to figure out how they get there. So it's not what anyone feels looks good, it's not based on any of that, it's a number they meet, no budging, no fudging, and they will turn in a stormwater study that meets those. We will also require them to direct this into the existing system, which as it stands is the pond we just discussed. So there are multiple methods, but ultimately that is the course of water for this region of DeKalb, and that's where they will be outputting their water. It won't be able to open channel flow into some neighbor's backyard or some other thing like that. It will go into the system where it will be immediately contained in that pond and then work its way through the system. I guess that's about all I have to say. It's up to them to figure it out. We know what they have to figure out, and we know we are able to accept their discharge, and we're confident with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach. Just a couple follow-up things. We do have, as you can see, zooming in is Steve Story, the landowner. So if he's available for any questions, certainly. We also have Jeff Lincolnheld. He's the engineer with the church, for the church, is also is called in. And of course, as you saw earlier, Chris Doe. So thanks, Zach. We did have communication with the residents who spoke at the last hearing, Sam Baker, who's here tonight, and also Jim Neff, who's also here. Kept them up to date regarding what we're doing out there, and pretty much a summary of what you just heard from Zach. So that's the situation. I would also note in the development standards, which were part of the original motion to approve, we made a slight change. So as Zach mentioned, they'll have to come back with final engineering plans, final development plan it's called, which include final engineering and stormwater calculations prior to any construction on the site, showing that it meets the runoff requirements from the UDO. We all changed in there that that final development plan, you'll see this again, so that final development plan will come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission when they're ready to, before they can start any construction, when they're ready to get to that phase. That will come back to the commission, and we'll have a report indicating that where they're at with the stormwater. So you'll see that again, and that will go on to the council too. So this is not the only time that you'll be seeing this project.
Okay.
Dan, if I could just make one more general comment regarding that. We do have an extra step here where they are going to come directly back to you for approval. Regardless of that step, any stormwater drainage study submitted to my office is a public document available for any scrutiny or further public review, just so everyone's clear on that. It's not just to us engineers snickering back and forth with our notebooks. These are public documents open to anyone's scrutiny.
So in your staff report, as you did at the last meeting, you have a sample motion recommending approval of the rezoning, the annexation of part of the site, the approval of the plans, which would be the concept plan, the architectural renderings, landscape plan, and the platted dedication. Also Exhibit B, the plan development standards. It lays out what uses are allowed, what parking regulations there are. Those 4 waivers we talked about last time, they're in there. And also the requirement that the final development plans come back, reviewed by staff, and then the commission again, and also council.
Thank you, Dan. At this point, I'll open it up to anybody from the public that would like to speak to this. If you would step to the podium, please announce your name and address.
Hi, my name is Sam Baker, 1230 Omega Circle Drive in DeKalb. We have been, the last couple of weeks, working with the city to get things cleared. They did do some exploratory, we see what probably could have been the problem. We do hope that the city finishes up in this fall to finalize what we need to get done out there on both sides of the pond. We kind of know what the issue is, but it needs to be finalized and complete the work. So we're hoping that that gets done before the winter time so we don't have any other issues, but it does seem to be working. Mr. Story is going to put in a larger pipe. Right now, that 12-inch pipe that goes away only has, I think, a 6 or 8-inch pipe. He's going to put a 10-inch pipe and replace that so more water can be taken away. So there seems to be a plan that's in place. We just need the city to do its part and come back and finish the exploration and to get the inlet pipe cleared away. And we think it should work from that point. So we're ready for the church to get going.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Cool.
Anyone else?
Brad Fisher, I live at 1225 Omega Circle. I just want to know if there's like going to be a set actual maintenance plan then for you guys to inspect the pipes, because there's been plenty of times where in the 8 years that I've lived there, the larger pond itself has gotten backed up and almost overflowed and it wasn't caught. I know Sam had to put sandbags up around his house one time. So if this is something you guys have already missed a few times, let's to make sure, I mean, I just want to make sure that maintenance is going to be done on it to where we get a heavy rain, and if there's something backing it up, you know, you guys are going to come out and check them, inspect them.
Sure. So one thing to clarify is those ponds are not city ponds. They're not on public property. They're not maintained and operated by the city on a day-to-day basis. The city and the drainage district have easements for situations like this where we needed to enter, use larger equipment, and remove larger debris. That is the responsibility on the day-to-day basis of the homeowners association. Just like any other, just like I live on 9th Street, I have a street inlet in front of my curb. It's not their job to go by every day. It's mine to call and say, hey, there's an issue. There might be a whatever. I have a water main, break or something. So that's why I said it's a partnership. And we've already had great conversations with the homeowners association about that. They have a plan, a very competent plan of how to keep that growth away from there. But the best thing that can be done is as soon as possible, raise your hand and say, hey, city, we need a hand out here. Hey, drainage district, we need a hand out here. And obviously, have you seen, within 24 hours, the city manager had the city engineer, the public works director, and the street superintendent personally on site clearing that. So obviously, we'll respond if you feel it's getting out of hand. But it's also part of kind of a little bit of the neighborhood responsibility as many developments, just like you mow them, right? Mm-hmm. When they're out there mowing, just say, hey, boy, there's a big stump that looks like it broke loose by the thing. We'll come help out and get it out. So that's the way it's intended to work.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, I will close the public hearing on this and open it to comments from any of the commission members. Everyone satisfied?
Yeah, I think the concerns that I had, which was making sure that the city engineer did take a look, put eyes on it, saw that the problem could be resolved. I feel good about that. It sounds like the local residents, that the information given you sounded satisfactory, obviously, as long as all things get finished in a timely manner, but it sounds like a resolvable issue and a maintainable situation, so I think that answered the questions that I had. I know Jerry and I had some of the same.
Yeah, I think that just addressing the drainage issue with the pipes and all that is understandable, and I think we were moving past that last time, so I'm happy with that.
Cool.
Yeah, and the fact that the church will be coming back with their plan on how to make sure that they contribute to a bigger problem, but a chance to review that again, I think that's important, and I'm glad to see that that's the case.
Do you have any comments?
No, I haven't.
No? Good. I would agree, thank you. For the city going out and actually finding a solution to this, I think that's, and I do understand that you cannot monitor every water main and every drainage pipe and culvert in the city, but obviously you guys were very proactive in making sure that that's not going to happen. And again, I think with the assurances that this has to go through your office again, as well as be presented, should alleviate anyone's fears. So with that, I will ask for a motion.
Based on the submitted petition and testimony presented, I move the Planning and Zoning Commission forward its findings of fact and recommend to the City Council approval of a zoning map amendment upon annexation from the SFR1 Single Family Residential District to the PDR Plan Development Residential on an approval of an amendment to Ordinance 94-74 to allow for the construction of approximately 7,700 square foot church and accessory uses for approximately 16 acres of the property located along the west side of North Annie Glidden Road across from DeKalb County Health Facility campus. Approval is also recommended for a concept plan, architectural elevation, landscape plan, and plat dedication described in Exhibit A of the staff report and approval of the plan development standards described in Exhibit B of the staff report.
So moved by Becker. Seconded by Klein. Roll call, please.
Becker,
Yes.
O'Flaherty,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Doe,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Chair Maxwell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. Second item on the agenda tonight, public hearing, petition by Ricky Brown for approval of a variance to Articles 7.06.3 and 7.06.6 of the Unified Ordinance to allow a 6-foot high, oh, good grief. A 6-foot high privacy fence to encroach into the front building line along Culver Street for the property located at 904 South 4th Street. City report?
Thank you, Chair. This is a variance request, as you mentioned, for a fence that's been constructed. This is at 904 South 4th Street. The corner of Culver Street and South 4th Street was a former car wash. And what I marked up here was the 6-foot high privacy fence. The applicant did apply, Ricky Brown, who's here, and also Brian Sipes, the co-owners of the property, here to answer any questions. Fence was applied for a permit. They put it up before it was issued, so there was one issue with the setback only along Culver Street. In red, around the edge of the property, is where the fence was constructed, 6-foot high privacy. And I showed in yellow here along Culver Street is where the fence should have been constructed. So in the front yard, the UDO requires if you have a 6-foot high privacy fence, it's got to be set back at basically at the building line. So it can't go in front of the building, as you see the former car wash here, so the fence should have been constructed here. So we advised the applicant of that. They applied for a variation. We notified surrounding landowners of the hearing. So as you can see, they put the fence right at the edge of the former pavement of the drive for the car wash, which makes sense. They wanted more area for the outdoor storage, more area for the outdoor storage of the businesses there. There's a landscaping business leasing the site for storage of vehicles and materials. So they're 20 feet into the setback, but they're still 11 feet from the edge of, or the right-of-way of the property line or the edge of the sidewalk. So that's the variance request. If the fence was shorter, 3 feet or less, which is pretty short, they could go up to the property line, but at 6 feet, which is standard fence height, you have to meet that building line, kind of like they did in the front there where they have the fence up to the edge of the building. So in these, the reason why we have setbacks like that for fences is kind of two. One is aesthetics, one is so that the fence, we don't want a solid privacy fence right up next to the street. It could block the visibility of neighboring property. So we take a look at what is next door here. So there's residential to the east of the site. As you can see, this home is about 4 feet away. There's the fence there looking towards 4th Street, constructed. That's a few photos from the inside. Here you can see along Culver Street looking west, you can see the home here is probably about 4 feet away from the sidewalk, and you can see the fence further back. So it won't be blocking any visibility. The house next door is actually closer. And here you're looking down the sidewalk, and you can see the fence is further back. So that home is pretty close, so it's not blocking the visibility of the home next door because the home is closer to the road than the fence is. I did up that is looking east along the sidewalk. You can see the home in front of the fence there. This is on the front, looking south of 4th Street. That's looking across 4th Street back at the building there. So to kind of look at this, what I did is took the red line here is the area where the fence was constructed and just drew it directly east all the way back to 7th Street along Culver. As you can see, there's several homes and garages that are about in line or even closer to the street than the fence. And the yellow line shows where the fence should have been constructed. As you can see, there's a lot of homes in front of there. So that streetscape along Culver, there's a lot of homes and garages pretty close to the street. So there's no visibility issue. There's a alleyway, and cars can still, it meets all the sight distance requirements here for the alley. As cars exit, there's adequate visibility here to see the home is actually a little problem, but the fence is not causing that. So those are the main things we look at for setback as neighboring properties. So we have the findings of fact for variations that are in the UDO. Some of these have kind of common responses to, for the most part, regarding the effects on the neighborhood and the situation with the fence and the adjacent properties. Again, it's not causing visibility. It's not an aesthetic issue. They're trying to get some additional storage area for the landscaping business that is in there. And we can add a condition, which I did, regarding any variance. You can add a condition if you think it's appropriate related to the variance, which I go into. We did get a couple of comments from the public. Probably shows it the best. We got email or citizen response form from these two homes here, both in support of the request, and also from the property owner of this commercial business here. Our building has the Macy's Video Gaming and State Farm Insurance. Brian Shalley sent a letter indicating support for the property too, or for the variance request. So there's a sample motion prepared approving the, and with variances, again, the commission, you have the final decision. It's not a recommendation. You either approve it or deny it. So we're recommending you approve the variance, allows the 6-foot-high variance for the fence based on the exhibit, which is the site plan here, which shows the location. And the one condition that the storage of all equipment, vehicles, and landscape materials related to the business on site must be behind the fence. And then any loose landscape materials, for example, sand, soil, rocks, mulch, can't be directly on the ground. It's prohibited. So it's got to be on a pallet or in a container or truck or something, can't be directly on the ground. And we've discussed this with the applicant, and they've agreed to that condition. So that's a report. Certainly happy to answer any questions, and of course, Ricky and Brian are here to answer any questions from them.
Thank you. If either of you would like to speak to that issue, you can feel free to come to the podium. Thank you.
Brian Sykes, co-owner of the property. As Dan was mentioning, part of it to go out wider was for additional space, which will add additional space, but the main thing was to keep cars from coming in, driving through, and going out the other exit. I know over there when we first purchased the place, people were pulling in and just emptying their garbage out, just making a mess of the place. So that's the biggest reason we wanted to go out to the edge of that blacktop.
Okay.
So.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing and open it to comments by the commission. Questions?
Yeah, I drove out there and walked around, and I think the fence looks good, and in view of how close some of the other houses are, this thing pulls my hearing aids off. I don't see any problem with it. In fact, I think it's a nice improvement, and I certainly will vote for it.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Any other comments? I'm just curious, when you applied for the permit, did it take too long to get approval?
Yeah, actually it was, I think, 2 months from the time we applied to the permit and we had to start the job, I mean, we didn't have to, but the fence company, if we didn't have them started when they did, then it would have set them back, who knows how much longer to get back to our job.
Okay. Okay, with that, I will ask for a motion to approve or comment, sorry.
I'll read it. Based on the submitted petition, testimony presented, and findings of fact, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve a variance to Articles 7.06.3 and 7.06.6 of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow a 6-foot-high privacy fence to encroach into the front building line along Culver Street for the property located at 904 South 4th Street, as shown on the site plan dated July 9th, 2020, and labeled as Exhibit A, and subject to the following. Number 1, the storage of all equipment, vehicles, and landscape materials related to the business on site must be stored behind the 6-foot-high privacy fence, as shown on Exhibit A. The storage of any loose landscape materials, examples sand, soil, rocks, mulch, directly on the ground is prohibited.
Second.
So moved by O'Flaherty, seconded by Klein. Roll call, please.
Becker,
Yes.
O'Flaherty,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Doe,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Chair Maxwell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
At this point, I'll ask for any staff reports.
Next scheduled meeting is August 3rd. No hearings have been set yet. So unless we get some other item on the agenda, we'll cancel that and we'll send out a notice next week. So some recent council action or new construction, I guess. You've probably seen Raising Cane's is started. Demo's complete, of course, and they started the work on the foundation, and they're planning to open by end of the year. And a lot of activity, too, on a couple of projects John Pappas is doing, Isaac Suites at Oakland Drive and Sycamore Road. That's the 59-unit mixed-use project, 4-story, is underway, as is the very close, starting to, Agora Tower at the 4th Street between Oak and Locust Street, the mixed-use project also. And hopefully soon we'll have a new Planning and Zoning Commission member to replace Vicki Buckley. I know the mayor is speaking to a few people, so hopefully that appointment will be up in the council soon, and we'll have our 7th member.
Wonderful.
Cool.
Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Third. So moved by Klein and Wright and Doe, and motion.
I think I'm the only one who didn't second.
Motion passes.
We get a voice vote on that? Just, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
All those in favor?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me participate this way.
You had
Thanks,
the best
Chris.
voice out of anybody in here.